This video is sponsored by Skillshare.
Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Brie and I love zines. And today I want to talk about a mindset that has been a total game changer for me as a zine maker, and it is
don't get it perfect, get it done.
Maybe it's due to me being the oldest sibling and having to learn everything on my own to teach my baby brother and sister, or maybe it's because I'm a Scorpio and I'm more of a tough love kind of person. I don't know, but I've always been a firm believer in learning by doing. That's just my philosophy, that's just my mindset. So if you have like 34,789 unfinished zines because you're too concerned with getting it perfect, this video is for you. If you've never heard of a zine, it's just like a self-published booklet about anything you want. I like to tell people to think of them like homemade magazines, except magazines are more focused on profit, while zines center around self-expression. If you want to learn more about zines from my perspective, check out this playlist later. Okay, let's be real. Perfectionism is a trap. It's a trap that keeps you stuck in your head and prevents you from turning your ideas into tangible works of art like your zine. When I first started making zines almost a decade ago, I'd spend hours, if not weeks, agonizing over every little detail. Is this font right? Is this topic boring? What if I spend all of this time and energy working on the zine and nobody reads it? But here's the thing. Zines are not about being perfect, they're just about expressing yourself. Whether you're making a zine with strong political stances and sharing radical ideas within your community, or you're just making a zine about why you hate tomatoes, the thing to keep in mind here is that this medium gives you a platform to showcase what matters to you. I'm not saying this as if I'm some perfect angel that never cares about how my work is perceived or that I could just sit down at my desk and start working like a machine. I'm saying all of this from experience, okay? I've had to learn over and over and over again that the only way to get over my perfectionism is just to get started with my work. And yes, sometimes the things I start on I don't finish, or maybe I do make a final zine and it turns out looking really bad or ugly. But all of that work is like practice that is getting me one step closer to a final zine that I'm gonna love. Zines are historically known for the punk and DIY movements that they come from. The entire point of people making their zines was to rebel against polished corporate mainstream media. Black authors and writers from the Harlem Renaissance published their zines to critique the leaders of their time. Sci-fi fanatics from the 1930s made their fanzines to share their love of their favorite fantasy worlds. Feminists distributed their zines in the early 90s to connect with other girls through music, art, and creative writing. Zines have a diverse timeline where the common goal has always been to share ideas, art, and writing in a way that was cheap, quick, and independently printed. So if you're sitting there overthinking every little step of your zine, you're actually going against the spirit of zines and why they exist. A finished zine, no matter how rough it looks, is a million times better than a perfect zine that only exists in your head. This is why I love to encourage you guys to think of your zine as a rough draft where you get to practice your creativity. The draft is super underrated these days. A lot of people just want to go straight from the idea to this perfectly executed final product, but doing the practice and just seeing what happens and around and finding out is a perfect way to get closer to a zine that you will enjoy, that you will like. Seriously, I'm speaking from experience here, okay? So when you draft a zine or think of the zine as practice instead of this thing that has to be perfect right away, you feel less precious about it and you just start working and create something. See where it goes. When I get the zine done instead of getting it perfect, I end up with an eclectic portfolio of lots of zines that are just revisions of the same thing. Almost every zine that I trade, sell, or give out for free has gone through an evolution process before I even made the zine available. Okay, it has lots of lives, it has lots of versions, there's lots of drafts. I can't even tell you how many revisions some of my zines have gone through before I was finally happy with it. And then on the flip side to that, there's plenty of times where I make a zine and what you see is what you get, and it only took me one time to make it. The main message here, though, is just to try, to let yourself have the freedom to create for creation's sake. Stop thinking about how other people are going to read it or if people are going to like it, and just start making something. I personally like to think of creativity as a muscle. In order for your creativity to grow and get stronger, you have to practice it over and over and over again. That's why I'm super excited to partner with Skillshare, the largest online learning community for creatives where you can practice your creativity at your own pace. Led by industry experts in film, illustration, and productivity, Skillshare has a multitude of classes that will take you from dabbler to pro in just a few hours. I recently took a class with Chicago-based designer and illustrator Jenny, and their class is called Showcase Your Work, Design a Digital Zine Using Affinity Publisher and Issue.com. I primarily make zines the old-fashioned way with my hands, and not because I'm a zine purist or anything, I'm not, it's just the way that I like to make my zines. But recently, I've been really interested in learning how I can expand my resources and my knowledge when it comes to self-publishing. And thanks to Skillshare, it's been super easy for me to learn how to make zines digitally. From layout design and mock-ups to tips on how to promote your zine, I really enjoyed how Jenny's class dove deep into an area of zines I've always been interested in exploring. Additionally, I love how Skillshare offers classes that goes way beyond art too. You can discover more about content creation for social media, business advice for entrepreneurship, and even organization tips for the messy, free-spirited artist like myself. So if all of that sounds really interesting to you and you're wanting to flex your creativity muscles, and get those reps in so you can strengthen your creativity, definitely give Skillshare a try. And also, I have great news. The first 500 people to use the link in my description will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. So don't wait, get started today. So, now that I've talked about why getting it done rather than getting it perfect is such an important mindset to have, not only as a zine maker, but as an artist and person in general, how can we implement this into our work? Number 1, set a deadline. I know a lot of us artists like to create when inspiration strikes. Trust me, I'm no different. And there's plenty of times where I take a month-long hiatus just to let my brain marinate on ideas. However, I'm not really talking about that. I'm speaking to the creatives that maybe have a hard time getting started on their zine because they're worried about getting it perfect, right? I think inspiration is great, but alone can only go so far. And what I found from my years of being a creative and a zine maker is that when I meet inspiration with some sort of work ethic or some sort of structure or routine, it really helps elevate my zine making and my art to the next level. Setting a realistic but firm deadline is always the kick in the butt that I need to be able to execute my ideas, and not saying that when I execute them, they come out perfectly and that they're amazing and everybody loves them. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is that it really helps me to get out of my head and just get my hands moving. And as I start moving my hands and creating things, I come up with ideas along the way, or I edit things along the way. It becomes this flow process or this flow state where I'm in the zone and things just start coming to me, and I really think that helps with your art, is when you just start without knowing what the outcome will be, or without knowing if people will like it or if people will buy it. You just get started with it, okay? A finished zine in a month is still better than the perfect zine that doesn't even happen. The second tip I would give you is to limit your tools. A lot of people can get overwhelmed with the idea that a zine could be about anything that you want. So if you're just starting out on your new idea, or you're just really stuck with trying to get over your perfectionism, I'd say that less is more. Of course, it's exciting to know that you can make your zine digitally or all by hand, or you can mix the medias. You can make your zine with fabric or with paper. You can make it in scrapbook style or more neat, and you could print it off locally. But instead of using every tool available to you to get started on your zine, I think if you're struggling with that perfectionism side of yourself, or you're worried like, is my zine going to be good enough? I think it's a good idea to limit the amount of tools you use just starting out, okay? Some good starter supplies for your zines are stickers, markers, glue, coloring books and magazines to rip up and use for the background of your pages. Stuff like that, just starting off, really brings you back to a level of, like, I like to say elementary, and not in a derogatory way. I'm just saying it brings you back to the basics. Because when you have all of these options to explore, you could kind of be like a kid in a candy store where you eat so much candy at first that you get a stomach ache. That's what we want to avoid, okay? We don't want to get a tummy ache, because we want to be able to live our lives and make our art, right? So that's the same way I think about zines when you're paralyzed by fear or paralyzed with the idea of perfectionism. Don't eat the whole cookie jar, maybe eat 3 cookies, I don't know if that analogy is working, but that's what I mean. It's just limit your tools when you're starting out, and then you'll just start creating for fun. And you'll soon find, by sticking to the basics or going back to like elementary style kind of tools that you're able to create freely, and then you're having fun. Before you know it, you're having fun. The third thing I do to implement getting it done rather than getting it perfect is just to accept that your zine sucks. Does your zine have so many typos that it look like you had a stroke at the keyboard? Maybe your printer is janky and cheap, and so all of your zines print out with weird wonky lines down the middle of them. All of that is part of the charm of a zine, my love. That is what makes your zine your zine. Always, always, always separate your zine or your art or whatever piece of project that you're working on. Always separate that from your self-worth, okay? Because the thing that you make is not you. And I know that's hard to even think or conceptualize because what you create is such a reflection of your innermost thoughts and who you are and what you believe in. But I think it's really important to practice looking at your work or your zine in this instance very objectively, okay? Don't always connect it to your self-worth, because then if you share it and people don't like it or they make negative comments about it, you're gonna think that that means you suck or that you're bad. And that's not always true. You are not your zine, but your zine is like you in the sense that you're a human being. You have flaws, you make mistakes, you are unique, you're your own person, okay? So your zine is very much like you in that sense, that it's not always going to be perfect, but it's real, okay? And that's what makes zines so relatable and so refreshing. And the fourth thing I could give for some sort of advice is to just focus on your message. The heart of your zine is what you want to focus on 9 times out of 10 when you're making your zine, okay? Actually 10 times out of 10. I don't know why I said 9 out of 10. You should always just focus on the message, okay? Don't let negative comments from strangers or even yourself deter you from exploring new ways of presenting your work, presenting your story, or sharing your ideas. Your zine is about getting your ideas across in a way that is cheap, DIY, and accessible to you. If you're thinking like, I'm gonna make this and nobody's gonna like it, I'm gonna make this and people are gonna shit on it, I'm gonna make this and people are gonna say that's not a real zine or whatever. If I listened to any of those comments, it would prevent me from making my work. So I just ignore it, you know? What I like to think, there's a Kanye West quote where he's like,
"You cannot give me any advice."
That's usually what I think when I make my zine, okay? And not to say that you cannot be open to feedback or constructive criticism. I am always urging you guys, please, to keep an open mind when people give you feedback and advice. But for the most part, your zine is an expression of you. So when people leave hate comments, not feedback or constructive criticism, okay? I'm talking specifically about negative comments. When they leave those things, it's like, how are you going to tell me how to express myself? You cannot argue with my opinion or the way that I express, okay? So just keep that in mind, that your zine is for you. It's for you first. And if other people like it and they relate to it, that's like a bonus, okay? You should be thinking of your zine as a way for you to just get your ideas across, to express yourself, to get something off your chest, whatever you want to do. So just focus on the message and don't worry so much about what people are going to say or their opinions, okay? Because most of the time, nobody's opinion on your art matters but yours, because it's art. Art is subjective. Same with zines. Zines are subjective, so don't listen to anybody's arbitrary rules of how to make it or present it, and just focus on your message. There is a place for everyone in this community, so I just want to reassure you that you are on the right path, even if you have doubts or insecurities, all right? Because that is so normal. If you don't realize that about yourself, or maybe you think you're weird or something's wrong with you for feeling a little bit insecure about your zine, you're fine. Everybody experiences that. I experienced that, okay? Everybody has self-doubts or moments of insecurity or anxiousness when it comes to your work. However, all I'm trying to say with this whole entire video is that I want us all to find balance, okay? I've reached a place where I have balance. There are times where I make stuff that sucks and that nobody likes, that I don't even like. But the main purpose is that I was able to express myself and make art. So hopefully this video helped you with some of your perspective when it comes to perfectionism and just getting the zine done. I know it's hard, and I'm speaking to you as a fellow artist, a fellow zine maker. We sometimes get like that, where we get in our head, but when we get too much in our head, it stays up there. And then there's nothing tangible to look at, right? What we want to get to, the process of what we're trying to overcome, is getting over our thoughts and what our mind tells us and creating something that's tangible out in the real world that we can see. So that's what I want you to get to. Find that balance. Don't be so hard on yourself, okay? Give yourself some slack. You're not a machine, okay? And just focus on expressing yourself. That's the main thing, okay? Is just what makes you excited, what lights you up, and just lean more into that. Don't forget to leave a comment down below letting me know what you think, and if you have any advice on how to get it done rather than get it perfect, I would love to hear your thoughts on this. Also, be sure to check the description to find my zines, to join my zine club, or to follow me on my other social media platforms like Instagram and stuff like that. All right, now go and make something awesome and get out of my face.